is a good time for you if you're listening and you're a loyal listener. Go to our webpage, follow us on YouTube. Now's a good time to watch the show as well as listen to the show because we have a very special guest in studio with us. One of the best to ever do it, rushing the passer and playing defense at the University of Utah. Hunter Dimick, Snacks himself, joins us here in studio, and we're going to take up as much of his time as he will give us. Welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you in here.
I appreciate you.
Here, point that mic right at your mouth. Like, these are directional.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we got you.
Awesome. No, I appreciate you making me sound a lot cooler than I am, man. Very glad to be here.
No. I don't have to do anything to gas you up. 29.5 career sacks. By the way, do you know your stats against BYU in your career?
I don't.
You had 2 sacks in 3 games against BYU. You had 3 tackles for loss in those 3 games against BYU. I didn't look up the other stuff, but you performed well against BYU.
I just know I'm 5-0 against them. So.
That's all that really matters to the Utah football listeners. Again, thanks for coming in. If you're watching on YouTube, you will see the guy still looks like he could play. You're still a tank, dude.
Still morbidly obese, but we're working on it.
That is not right. Okay, so one thing that we're going to talk about a lot this week, because it is rivalry week, we got the Holy War, is like the nature of college football now, and you're well aware of this. It's a little bit different. The transfer portal, there's not as much of like the, both for BYU's roster, for Utah's roster, for everyone's roster, there's not as much like dyed in the wool. I'm a local kid who came up and understood this rivalry from the very beginning. You're a Utah guy. You're a Utah high school product, obviously. You knew what BYU Utah was before you were a Ute, I'm sure. And then, of course, you spent all the time up there and had that more deeply ingrained into you. If you're, maybe they do. Kyle Whittingham calls you and says, Snacks, we got to get you up here so you can explain to these transfer guys, these freshmen, what this game really means. Tell me what it means.
I mean, for me, kind of alluded to it, just being a small-town Utah kid, it's just as simple as, you want to get something, you chase it, you work as hard as you can for it. I don't know how else to explain it, but the Wild West with all the transfer portals, I think Utah got 40-something, 50-something new players just this year alone.
Yeah,
so,
and what's wild is that's like not even a big number right now in college. I mean, there's a couple teams out there with 70 new players. Bronco Mendenhall at Utah State brought in 70 new players.
It's again, just wild West. I mean, I envy the NIL part of it. It's awesome to see players finally get paid what they're worth and getting able to cash in on the amount of work that they put in for the universities. I'm not against that in any way, shape, or form, but it definitely creates kind of an interesting parable with that where, again, loyalty in some cases can be bought, and you've got 40 to 50 new guys on the lower end coming in every year. It's definitely changed.
And rivalry games for me are what make college football special. It's always going to be the thing that separates, even as it gets more professional, it separates college football from the NFL. In the NFL, it very much is a business. You know that much better than I do, right? It's
Absolutely.
a business, and there's there's still passion and there's rivalries in the NFL, but it's not like you grow up on those things, and it's not like a house divided, especially we have that here in Utah and things like that. So as you try to maintain the integrity of this part of college football, of these rivalry games and these rivalry weeks, while you're bringing in transfer players and while it's this constant turnover, I mean, you kind of have to educate your own team on what BYU versus Utah means.
I mean, to an extent, yeah. I mean, if there's one thing that doesn't have to be taught during this rivalry week, as we call it, hate week, I mean, we're going to have film of BYU fans from the 80s talking smack into the camera, playing on 40 different TVs at the facility. Like, there's no question about us not liking these guys and us not liking them within the respectful rivalry. But, I mean, transfer or not, you're going to get the feel, you're going to get the hate, believe me.
All right, we got to talk about something because you kind of touched on it for a second. Like being a former player, a recent former player, right? I was a walk-on 20 years ago. So, like, all the changes in college football, they don't matter to me. It's just, like, obviously as a fan and as an observer, they matter. But, like, for someone who was an important member of this roster, you finished in 2016 and NIL opportunities came in, 4 years later?
Yep.
3 years later? I mean, look, everything I've heard about you is that you're a pretty simple guy. You're, but how do you process that? Like, you were 3 years too early to be. I don't mean to be indelicate here, but you would have left as a millionaire. You would have left that program as a millionaire, like everyone of that caliber does now in college football.
I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I was just green with envy, man. Truly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to see how it's changed. When I first got to Utah in 2012, walk-ons couldn't eat with the team after practice because for some reason that was considered an impermissible benefit.
I used to have Corey Dodds sneak Crown Burger bags out of like the lineup for me because, Loma Olaval, these guys would be like, hey, I got you, don't worry. Because there was a GA standing there being like, walk-ons, you can't touch that because it was an NCAA violation.
Yeah, we got in trouble. Same thing. We'd, make a play, take it out, and it was kind of a slap on the wrist. Don't ask, don't tell. But, I mean, and nowadays, I talk to people and I guess it's commonplace for recruits to kind of politically correctly ask, what can you do for me NIL-wise, a.k.a. what can you pay me if I come here?
Exactly.
Which it's just crazy to see the 180 it's taken. I mean, I sure wish I could have left Utah a millionaire, but, I definitely can't complain about the experience I got. 5 years with some of the best people I've ever met in my life. 2 of my best friends still to this day. Hayden Clegg's coming to stay with me this weekend for 5 days, and I'm sure there's still some strong relationships that get formed, and no doubt about that. But, money definitely can't buy that 4 to 5 years I got with my best friends that, again, I'm still hanging out with to this day.
Yeah, I don't want to diminish the experience of anyone who was there before. I mean, even me as like I never got on the field for the University of Utah. I still have lifelong friends from my time at the University of Utah. I probably don't have this job if I didn't have that experience, stuff like that. If you're a scholarship player, you got a free education. I've never been the one to diminish like the value of those types of things.
100%.
But you're right. Now the money is also there, which is if you still get to have all of that, plus you're driving a brand new car and you got coming straight out of school, you have a nice little nest egg. I mean, it's great to see players have this opportunity now. And I've talked with guys from kind of my era. One of my best friends in life is Jan Jorgensen, who was at one point, he was the all-time Mountain West Conference sack leader, right?
Absolutely. From Price, Utah, if I remember correctly. That's where my family's from as well. So
that's exactly right. Jan is a great human being. He's wonderful. You actually had a lot of similarities in the style of play and everything about you guys. You could be brothers just looking at you, honestly. But like Jan left BYU as, this career great at BYU. If he's that guy now, he's a millionaire when he leaves. And instead, he's grinding away being a GA. He's coaching at junior colleges. And now he's climbing the ladder a little bit. He's up at Utah State right now, and he's finally making like a livable wage. But he had to spend like 10 years making poverty level money just to stay in the football world. And it's just not like that anymore. So I look at a guy like him, and again, he played kind of that similar era that I did and was a great player in that era. And I'm like, how do you as a coach now have these conversations with kids who aren't as good as you were? And they're just like, well, can you pay me $500,000 to come here? And you probably want to punch these dudes.
Yeah, let me go back on what I said just a little bit. If I could have my 4 to 5 great years and be a millionaire, I would change that, no doubt. But no, it is crazy. Again, I as jealous as I am of it all, I'm glad to see that the changes that, in my opinion, should have been made a long time ago are finally starting to take place. Kids that, kind of in my situation where maybe the NFL doesn't work out as well as you'd hope, well, they've still got a good nest egg now. If I'm sure they're smart with their money, got people telling them how to save it, spend it, all that good jazz. But, I mean, it's just good to see that kids can now, again, profit earlier. The NFL doesn't work out. They're in a good situation, better than they would have been at least, and can move forward from there.
What is your relationship with the team right now? Like, are you – because there's different levels of all this. Are you a guy who wants to be, at every single Utah game now? Are you a guy who's like you've already – you scratched that itch? Yes, you're a Utah football fan, but you don't need to be standing on the sideline in all these games. Like, how do you feel about your connection with Utah? I know – or what I know of the situation is Kyle Whittingham does a good job of keeping former players feel connected and all that stuff. Do you take advantage of it?
I probably catch, maybe 1-2 games every year or two. You put it pretty well. That itch has been pretty scratched for me. And Pablo Cano, Jeff Rudy, shout out to those guys. They take care of me whenever if if I do want to snag a ticket for a game, get a couple friends up there, they take great care of me for that. But I just kind of like being at home, drinking beer with my dog, sitting on the couch. It's a little bit more cozy, but definitely once every year or two, get to the tailgates, party with the friends, and get to celebrate a little bit, no doubt.
So when you watching what we're seeing from this team this year, like John Henry Daly right now is the best pass rusher for the University of Utah. Do you watch your position in particular when you do tune into these games?
That's all that I watch. So
Yeah.
it's been awesome seeing JHD, and there's obviously plenty of other guys I could shout out, but after that first game, I had like 10 people text me and said, "Man, there's some guy out there that runs just like you do." And I'm like, that's not a good thing, but but getting to watch him, man, it's I love, and I'm biased because this was kind of my play style, but when you've just got a guy that gives 110% every snap, has the water boy run to him because he wants it that bad, just absolutely awesome. Kind of watching him come out of nowhere, and now he's one of the premier pass rush guys in the country.
Okay, let's talk, because your reputation, when people talked about you, like motor is kind of the first thing that would be mentioned, right? And that's a double-edged sword, right? When I was a fighter, everyone would be like, he's so tough. Well, that's good, but that's also bad because it means you're getting the hell beat out of you plenty of times. Yep. And so you're proving that you're tough all the time because you're getting smashed, right? And I've with football players, sometimes when motor is the first thing's mentioned, it's like that means they're not talking about your speed, they're not talking about your athleticism, they're not talking about, like, to me it is the ultimate football guy compliment. If people say that, when I say it, I'm just like, that is a compliment. Sometimes it is that double-edged sword. We're just like, well, I'm not just a high motor guy. I'm also pretty damn good at the position. I tackle well. I've got this whole arsenal of moves. So how do you process it?
Yeah, no, I could not have said it better myself. People that know kind of know it's that it's a compliment, but it's also kind of
it's like a backhanded compliment.
Exactly. You're not known for your speed, you're not known for your athleticism, but you're gonna try harder than anybody else, right? No, it's I'm with you, man. Truly, it's I think it's rare to see somebody that the first thing that you notice is just how hard they play, and that's I always kind of joke I wasn't the most athletic, not the biggest guy, but I mean I was well aware that I had some tools to work with, but I personally took pride in just the effort, the undying want to be the best, by any means necessary, and it's in my opinion that's the way the game should be played.
Well, and it also, like in Hunter Dimick's case, it's a little bit different than what you're seeing from like high compliments pay. I mean, there's been a million guys that come through the program that the coaches will be like, what a great worker. Yeah, there's been a lot of great workers. You were the great worker who also had the tools and the skills to leave the program as the career sack leader. I mean, like, there's a lot. Was it your strength, your physical strength that you think is like the biggest advantage you had over other competition? What would you say your first step? Obviously, we've covered the effort thing, but from a physical talent standpoint, what was your biggest weapon?
Ultimately, I think just perseverance. I was by far the biggest critic of myself, where if I didn't have a game I liked or a practice I liked or I lost a rep, first thing I'd go is be like, okay, what went wrong here? Okay, I didn't get off the ball fast enough. Okay, I'm trying to read the tackle instead of making the tackle read me, so to speak. So there was always, again, if I lost one rep in practice, it drove me nuts to the point where I was watching film again and again and again, to where I could kind of get to that point where, I was confident going in, like, okay, the only way I lose this rep, the only way I don't get this sack is if I get in my own way, so to speak. So just constantly sharpening the sword. Again, just hyper competitive. Forgive me, I don't like talking about myself much, but
no, that's what we brought you here for. So you have to forgive us because we're making you do something that makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I mean, just, and the strength, the speed, the get off kind of were all, I would say, secondary results of that perseverance and just that drive of wanting to be the best by any means necessary. And thankfully, had the senior year that got to prove a lot of that.
If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Hunter Dimick, one of the all-time greats at the University of Utah. Finished his career in 2016 as the all-time sack leader at the University of Utah. Bradley and I then beat you by a half sack. Do you love him or hate him?
I mean, I can't be mad at it, man. I'll make an excuse and say he got to play in, I think, 10 more games than I did.
That
So
is true.
there's my caveat, you know. No, Bradley worked his butt off, man. I got to watch him come in as a freshman and kind of evolve over the years. I was definitely holding my breath on that last game, I think, against Texas, that he wasn't going to do it. But, you know, again, getting to watch a guy work that hard and have it pay off, you know, I can't be mad about that.
Did John Frank ever come to you during your career? Because that's the guy whose record you beat.
Yeah, no, he I can't remember if he sent me a DM. I was on Facebook or Instagram or something, but just a congratulations, which I thought was extremely cool of him. Yeah, no, I mean, and when guys do that to you, it kind of makes it easier to pass the torch on to the next guy. You know what I mean?
Well, just to be part of that like great lineage, and it is, you know, the defensive front is kind of Utah football. If you're going to create an identity for the program and you have to build it around something, it really is you guys up front, and it has been, and it will be as long as Kyle's there, and I think, you know, Morgan's taken over right after him. I think as long as Morgan's there, so to be a great at any position in Utah is pretty awesome. But to be one of the all-time greats at one of the positions that really defines Utah football, I mean, you don't have to talk about yourself. I'm telling you, it puts you like close to that Mount Rushmore type status. It's pretty cool.
No, I appreciate that. You know, and what's cool about defensive line in particular is it's kind of just an unspoken rule when you get there. Like if you're part of the D line, you know, it doesn't need to be said. It doesn't need to be coached. You know, kind of like you said, you are the backbone. There's been greats upon greats upon greats before you that have built this up, and, you know, I'm sure as heck not going to be the guy that doesn't live up to that standard. So I really appreciate just kind of having that pressure almost, if you will, of like, you know, we expect you to be good, but as a D lineman, you know, you need to be great here.
Did you grow up with a bunch of Polynesians up there in Syracuse?
Only a couple, man. The Mo'os and Eric Louie. Shout out to those guys, and that was about it, I think.
Because then you're thrown right in, like you just become part of that culture when you're in the D line room at Utah.
Yeah, no, I still laugh to this day. At one point, I was the only white guy in the D line room.
Yeah,
and I mean, to this day, I listen to reggae 90% of the time just because I didn't have a say in it in the locker room. So great people. Cannot say enough good things about my teammates, man.
So big old corn-fed country white boy driving around in a pickup truck, listening to reggae.
Yeah, no, you could not have summed it up much better, man.
That's absolutely fantastic. Are you, you know, look, if I'm asking questions you don't like, don't hurt me. But like, the NFL didn't work out the way that any of us thought it would for you. How does that sit with you? How do you process that now that you're a little bit removed from it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's always going to be, you know, a scar. Just, you know, again, just as competitive as I am within myself, not making that happen is always going to be something that, you know, I'm kind of trying to figure out what I could have done better. What can I do now? Which, you know, is kind of a fallacy, but you know, it's taken a lot of time, and there's still always going to be a little bit of frustration, disappointment with it all. You know, just I went in, did what I could, fought with truly every fiber of my being, and it didn't work out. But at a minimum, you know, it sounds goofy to say, but I was just so worn out. I was so tired. I knew that I literally put everything this body had to give into it. Is a little bit of solace from it not working out, but I mean, at the same time, you know, I'm always going to have that edge like I've had for everything, and it's good for motivation in different areas of life now, if nothing else.
So now, like, one of the things that's toughest, right, whenever it happens, whether it happens after high school ends, for most people that's how it goes, right? Mm-hmm. Some of us are lucky enough that we extend it and get to play through college, and then guys who are really true greats, they can spend 5 minutes in the NFL, they can spend 15 years in the NFL. At some point, it all comes crashing down, right? And one of the hardest things for athletes to do is to process that constructively, to do it in a healthy way, and to get out, come out on the other side, and to apply what you learned in your athletic career to real life. Have you done a good job of that?
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting ride. I would say, you know, for like a good 2-3 years after I was finally done, that the last, you know, I was with the Chiefs 2019 for training camp, and after that the CFL came calling, and, you know, for me at that point was kind of my writing on the wall.
Okay.
It took a couple years just to where you don't think about it every day. You know, again, just you're so hyper competitive at that point. Like there's no such thing as failing. So you try to figure out, okay, what can I do to get back, or what can I do to better myself at this point? And when I hit that wall finally of, okay, CFL is kind of the next step if I want to stick with football. I can't say I ever got into like a dark place, and I can't say thank you enough to my family. Going hunting with my brother, my dad, mom's cooking homemade food still to this day to keep me as big as I am. So I had a fantastic support group around me, and I'm extremely grateful to be where I'm at right now. I get to work with amazing people every day. Surgeons are just freaking awesome, and just it's high level conversations, and there are people that are extremely competitive too. It's just a different field than football now.
Sure, you're in the medical device sales world, right?
Yes.
And there's a lot of athletes, there's a lot of football guys that make that. Is it because it scratches that itch a little bit, that there's like, it's a competitive world? It's like you got to be the one, you got to be knowledgeable, the attention to details got to be there. It intuitively, it kind of works with your football mind.
Yeah, in my opinion, it obviously this is biased, but I mean, I think there's a lot that translates from football to the medical device industry. For example, you need to be 30 minutes early to everything, or you're going to get chewed out good for it. So I can't show up 5 minutes late to a surgery case, because if you do, that puts the patient in a bad situation, and the surgeon's going to be, talking you down pretty heavy after that. And
Sure.
it's good. It's competitive. You're with other reps trying to make sales against them. Just a lot of good things. And again, what I appreciate more than anything, for one, I don't have to be in a cubicle. I tried that. For me, didn't work. Little too ADD for that. But I get to work with just some of the coolest people that want to go on these crazy elk hunts. I just can't say enough good things about all the surgeons I work with and how hard they work to go play hard. And every once in a while I get to cash in on that with some of their private land and hunting and
Cool.
things of that nature. And it gives me one more thing to talk about with them versus just how's the weather today. So
yeah, that's great. That's really cool. Hunter Dimick's going to stick with us for a couple more minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. You've also dabbled in a world that kind of like fixed my failure in football, right? Like, I didn't have I thought I was going to be a great college player. I was nobody. I was nothing. I transferred from Utah to Weber State and actually got some good playing time and some reps there, and had, I guess, a good exit on some level, but still it was tough for me. And then I got into the MMA world, and you and like Matt Martinez and Harrison Hanley, and I've seen, a bunch of those guys down there. I'm skipping half the names. Brad Clifford was the reason, like my former teammate Brad Clifford has gotten really into that jiu-jitsu world. And again, it's a great place to apply some of the things that you did physically in football, your strength, your athleticism, your body awareness, your balance, all those things. And of course, it's competition. So this is the point where all of you listening who don't like the combat sports are probably like, oh, please shut up about this. I'm talking to him about it, right? You've got like this elite athlete who's doing my stuff. I'm going to talk to him about it, okay? So tell me what jiu-jitsu and grappling have done for you.
Oh, man, I definitely should have added that onto the list of what helped me get past that kind of post-football wall. What am I doing with myself? Where do you even start? I just would say ultimately just what I loved about it is the respect. Like guys like you will try to play it down, you know what I mean? But like getting into when I first got into jiu-jitsu, I've got a 160-pound, 50-year-old guy choking me out all of a sudden. And
yeah.
Like you said, I'm this 6'4", 270-pound, relatively good shape guy walking into this gym, and the smallest guy there kind of looks at me, smiles, and says, "All right, yeah, let's roll." So I mean, just the respect, man. Again, I can't say enough good things about people like you that just work hard, and the courage it takes. Oh my gosh. I had pregame jitters plenty at Rice Eccles in the NFL, like we all do, but going into a jiu-jitsu tournament when it's you and one other guy, and you got no teammates to blame anything on, let alone an octagon, man. So, I mean.
It's the best and the worst part of it. I tell people this all the time, is like team sports, there's nothing like the brotherhood, the camaraderie, right? And there's some of that in an MMA gym, because you go through this crucible of training together. But when it comes to the competition, it's just you. Like you said, you don't get to blame the failure on anyone else, but also you don't have to share the credit when it goes your way. Like it's all your glory. It's such a unique feeling. It's like it's the sport thing distilled down to, all sports are on some level simulated combat, right? dominating another human being.
Truly.
This sport just happens to be exactly that.
Yeah, and that was the craziest difference for me was, there's a big difference between football shape and fighting shape.
For sure.
And oh Lord, did I learn that the hard way. I mean, again, I think I'm in decent shape for how big I am, and I walk into the jiu-jitsu gym and I know I got good cardio, but I'm used to, snap of the ball, 6 seconds as hard as you got. I mean, I'm 20 seconds into a rolling match with a guy, and I can't even, grab my hands anymore. I'm so tired as he's putting his forearm into my throat, and I'm like, okay, there's a big difference. I'm not going to out-athlete people here. I'm not going to I'm not going to be – I might be the strongest, but for 10 seconds before I gas it out and learn the hard way, okay, I'm in a different world now. It's been incredible, man, and the people shout out to Matt Martinez, Crown BJJ, those guys – been a family out there. They take great care of me whenever I want to come roll. It's been truly awesome that a bunch of former football guys were able to get that figured out, and credit to you for going that route as well, man. It's nothing but respect.
Matt did it better than me because he's part of that gym. He owns part of that gym, right?
Yeah.
And I was always a student at my gym, and I would bring former teammates in all the time. And I did it wrong because I would bring them in and we'd throw them right to the sharks, right? These pro fighters and these big – and when you're a big, strong guy who's had a lot of athletic success, a lot of people, when that 160-pound dude chokes you out, you never want to go in there again. The ego can't handle it, right? There's a lot of dudes from the football world who get humbled, and they don't like being humbled. And so you call them the next week, hey, are you going to come back in? And they're just like, I got to work. Call them the week after that. Hey, we got another open mat. You want to come in? They're just like, my wife says, So
Yep.
I credit you for being able to, because inevitably, invariably, and this happens in any sport, right? It's the reason I hate golf and won't golf, because when I go out there and golf, I'm so terrible at golf. I'm like, I'm not spending time and money on this, right? But the fact that you went through, because you had to go through those growing pains, you had to go through that time. You still are going through that time on the mats, right?
Truly.
and but the fact that you're willing to do it says a lot about your mentality as an athlete.
Yeah, I just kind of go back to the whole perseverance thing of it all. Just again, I kind of laugh and call it the water boy mindset, where it's like, okay, well, you might beat me this rep, but son of a gun, I will get better, and I will not stop until I'm better than you. And that's what's been absolutely awesome, because I mean, it's not an exaggeration when I tell you a 160-pound, 50-year-old guy choked me out. And kind of first thought, same thing was just like, man, did anyone else see that? Geez, I hope not. But then you realize it's like everybody in here has been choked out, and it gives me that new drive. Like, okay, I just got beat by this guy. How am I going to make sure that doesn't happen again? And that has been awesome, just to kind of put that nonstop improvement attitude into something else now that football's been gone. Do
you like the gi or the no gi better?
Oh, no gi, man. Those guys on the gi just choke me with it. It's awful.
Dude, the gi is so difficult. I'm a no gi guy myself.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah. I was doing jiu-jitsu to be better at fighting, right? And now to get into the competition jiu-jitsu in the gi world, I'm just like, I'm so far behind. No way.
Again, similar experience, man. I think I'm getting pretty good at this point. I'm starting to tap the guys out that were tapping me out. Okay, I'm good. Throw the gi on. I get this guy in full mount. Dude just reaches up, chokes me out with the gi. And I'm just like,
his collar chokes you.
Again, same thing. I look around like, I hope no one saw that. But again, it's kind of fun being new at something. I almost it sounds like an excuse, but I'm like, oh, he's been doing this for 15 years. I've been doing this for 3. At least that's my excuse in my mind. But no, it's just constant improvement. And again, the respect that you get for those guys, and even the release of ego has just been awesome.
Yeah, that is one of the great things about martial arts, is it makes you set aside all the great stuff you thought about yourself. You can build it back up if you want, if you put in the work, but it reminds you there's always a bigger fish somewhere.
And the bigger fish might be half your size, but he is out there, no doubt.
All right, swinging back to football a little bit. You got relationships on the BYU staff, just like on the Utah staff, right? These are two incestuous worlds where, Kalani was my position coach at one time. Now he's the head coach at BYU. Jay Hill, obviously. I mean, the connections go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's like two twin brothers slugging it out, basically,
truly,
in Provo this weekend. What do you think is the key for this Utah football team, 5-1 versus an undefeated BYU?
I mean, I'm obviously gonna resort to the defensive side of the ball. And anytime you have a freshman quarterback you're going against, and again, credit to BYU's guy. He's been playing excellent, from what I've seen. But you want to get in that guy's head, and you want to get in his head quick. Kalani's smart enough to know that Utah is going to send pressure. He's no stranger to that. I think I think Utah needs to get to that quarterback as fast as possible, just like they always do. And I think they're going to be able to do that with 4 guys. I know Scally's still going to send heat nonetheless, but if our 4 guys can get to him, JHD is going to have a game like he's done every game this year. I think that gives us a pretty dang good chance to walk out of there with a victory.
Who was the offensive lineman when you were at Utah who made you better every week in practice, right? Because that's we talk about it sometimes, but it's one of the things that really, when you've got a physical presence on both of those front sides, right, your pass rush, your reps against an offensive line make them better against competition, and the same is true vice versa. So who was the offensive tackle or tackles you were working against that made it so your game day experience was easier?
When I first got to Utah, Sam Brenner, no doubt, he's just one of those guys, not the biggest, not the fastest, but just so mean.
Nasty.
I mean, like,
nasty as hell.
I come out of Syracuse, I'm a big guy out there, and next thing I know, I got 310 pounds Sam Brenner, and he's saying some terrible things to me as I'm locked up, as he gets a forearm across my face mask. I'm this 18-year-old kid at the time, just terrified of him, but made me better. And I think I have to say Sam Tevy, got to work against him a lot. Ultimately, I'd have to say J.J. Dillman was the guy that – I lined up against him and just knew it was going to be a fight. Whether that was spring ball, fall camp, walkthrough, hyper competitive, just a stud of a human, fast. I think he was like 240 pounds when he got to Utah, got up to 300 pounds, and could move his feet like no one else I'd played against. So the battles against him truly made me feel like no matter which tackle I was going against, I knew they couldn't move like JJ. And that definitely helped me a ton.
I think for fans, for people like me who were, like a teeny tiny just grain of sand part of the football program at one point, people look at guys like you. Foundationally, it's hard to say whether Utah gets to where, their Pac-12 championship caliber team, to where they're expected to win Big 12 championships and be in a college football playoff. The legacy goes back long before me, long before you, long before, Luther Ellis is kind of the start of the D-line lineage to some extent. So maybe he doesn't have to look back at his predecessors and say, I owe something to him. But, do you have an appreciation for that, you helped build the groundwork for those Pac-12 championship teams and then for where Utah's at right now?
Yeah, it's I can't say I'm going to sit here and pat myself on the back of that, maybe – because they knew who I was, they won the Pac-12 championship type of situation. But just the continuation of the D-line, and their expected dominance. I'd like to think I played some part in that and continuing that. But as much as I'd like to take credit for those Pac-12 championships, those guys went out there and got it done. Sure, maybe we set the foundation for that. I'll take that pat on the back. But the work continues.
The work does continue. It never stops, and that's just how college football is.
Amen.
Holy War Week this week down in Provo. Is that a game that you make a phone call and you say, hey, let me try and get a ticket to that thing? Like you call Jay Hill, he'll be like, yeah, but you got to wear blue.
That's a no-fly zone already for that. But I've got some friends that are on the team right now that probably gonna make some phone calls for that when I get down there and watch that. So
nice. All right. Well, I hope we see you down there. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming in. I've been wanting to pick your brain about not only the football stuff, but the transition into the MMA and the combat world, because it's obviously very near and dear to my heart, and it makes me feel good that guys like you come in, and it's still challenging for guys like you, because the 18-year-old version of my brain is just like, well, nothing's hard for a Hunter Dimick type character. He was an all-American caliber football player, which means this stuff should be easy.
It's again, I can't say I came in with grand illusions if I was going to go in and be the guy in the gym, but I was not expecting the the 160-pound guy to teach me that lesson. So it's been awesome, man. Truly, just great people, man. It's like a football locker room. You know that better than I do. So
It's great. Have you done any of the striking stuff? Have you decided? Have you done the boxing, kickboxing, or does that interest you?
just a couple classes. Does it interest me? Yes. Do I want to lose 50 pounds before I really get into that? Yes. So that's my excuse.
Hunter, we need good, talented heavyweights in the MMA world. All right, just spend one or two. You can still do your training at Crown, but come down to Elite every now and again, and then let's get some rounds in.
I actually might take you up on that. That'd
All
be good to learn from a guy like you. No doubt. No doubt.
We'll do it. Hunter, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, before I take off, really quick, I had to give a shout out to Mitch Tulane out of Syracuse High School. He's he's been doing a good job turning around the football program. I think we've got a couple D1 guys that are getting looked at. Awesome. And lastly, Max D out of Morgan High School this week is going to be the first freshman on the freshman football team ever to throw for 3,000 yards. So he's not to the varsity ranks yet, but I think in the next couple years, Max D is going to be a name that people need to know and are going to hear a lot. So appreciate you.
We love those small town high school kids, so we'll pay attention to that. Were you the first big time recruit out of Syracuse High School?
I was,
because it was a brand new school when you were there, right?
Yeah, I was, to my knowledge, I think I was the first D1 athlete, at least football wise, the first D1 athlete out of Syracuse. Well, I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Yeah,
but yeah.
That's a pretty cool distinction. Also, have they retired your number or anything up there?
No, nothing like that. I mean, maybe one day. I don't know. It's crazy to me though. I mean, the amount of talent in northern Utah is, this is a biased opinion, just so severely under recruited. I mean, I made my name on the motor, and man, there's a lot of kids up there that have that same mentality, same work ethic, just need to get their shot. And I think it's gotten better over the last couple years of high schools up there getting the attention. But man, it is a gold mine up there.
Well, I could bore you to death with when, back in my day, I graduated in 2002, and I think there were 4 guys in the state that had D1 offers.
Wow.
Like maybe more than that, but it was less than a dozen. And now you got a dozen on like one team. So the high school football world has come a long way in the state of Utah, and northern Utah is kind of the next potential fertile recruiting ground. So we'll talk about that another day. Hunter, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Hunter Dimick, one of the all-time greats, best players to ever do it, especially rushing that passer, 29.5 career sacks. And yes, he did it in fewer games than Bradley and I's 30 career sacks. We have to put it out there until Bradley comes in, and then we'll make it sound like he was much better.